Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CityCo City Conversations. I think this is the first one we've labelled as City Conversations for probably about 18 months now, as we've been obviously busy with briefings and legal instructions and all the other stuff that we've been doing to help you out as businesses. We wanted to start looking forward. We're hoping we're out of the COVID period, even though we're patently not, looking at the figures that are going on, but we're hoping that we can look forward to 2022. Really wanted to start this with a couple of events this year. The first one today, looking at events in the city, Greater Manchester, the city more generally, and the city centre. So we're sort of starting at the edge of the donut and working our way down with the three of us talking today, to give an idea of all the different things that are going to be on from Christmas this year through till the end of 2022. Though, as I'm sure most of the speakers will say, there will probably be awful lot of other things that are coming in that we'll find out about in February for April and various other, which we'll let you know about as we do. General sort of hygiene for these events. Everybody should be on mute on the way in. If you've got any questions or anything, please put them in the chat rather than shouting them out, and we will hopefully be able to get to them and then can answer them as much as possible. We are recording, so you will be able to access this. This will be sent around to members and levy payers afterwards. At the end, I'll just mention the upcoming events that we've got over November and December as well, so stick around for that. But that should all be on the blaze of newsletters that will be hitting your email boxes and invites over the next few weeks, or if they haven't already. So I'm delighted to have Mike Parrott from the City Council, who many of you will know, and Nick Brooks-Sykes from Marketing Manchester, who many of you will also know. Mike obviously will be talking about city events. Nick will be talking about Manchester events and Greater Manchester events. And then finally, we'll end with me talking about the stuff that we as a bid and we as CityCo are putting on just in about 4 streets in the city centre. So sort of starting on, but very, very importantly, obviously, but starting with the outside of the donut, Nick Brooks-Sykes.
Thanks, Warren, and good morning, everybody. Nice to see so many people interested in this first city conversation, really. So I wanted really just to set the scene, really, in terms of where we are in terms of recovery for the visitor economy across Greater Manchester. I suppose it's good to start with some good news. Hotel occupancy has been growing at about 10% per month ever since we opened back in May. So the figures are climbing back up. I think it's fair to say that hoteliers were pleased with the summer season, lots of leisure traffic coming into the city, but there still continues to be an absence of corporate business and international business. But we're hopeful that we'll start to see some change and some uplift on both of those fronts over the first few months of, or the latter few months of this year and into next year. Just in terms of hotel development, first of all, even during lockdown, hotel development, as you may know, has continued apace, really. And we've opened just short of 1,000 bedrooms this year. 961 bedrooms have opened across Greater Manchester in this year. So new additions to the accommodation stock. And in 2022, in next financial year, we're about to open another 2,000 bedrooms across Greater Manchester. So the accommodation stock continues to grow, and hopefully demand will continue to be there and to continue to grow to keep apace with that development. Certainly in terms of Manchester Convention Bureau, which is part of Marketing Manchester, we've seen a significant uplift in the number of inquiries over the past couple of months for venues, for meetings, for conferences. And we've bid for 23 major conferences this year so far, and won 10 of those with an economic impact of £14 million. So we're starting to see some traction. For a while, there was a lot of bids in the system, but nobody making decisions. We're starting to see some of those decisions now being made. And the good news is that we're starting to secure business for 2022 and beyond. The other good news is that we've established a partnership with Manchester City Council to have a new member of staff who is looking at sports bids really, and looking, just as we do around conferences, identifying conferences that we can attract into the city and bid for those opportunities, working with venues. We're doing the same around sporting events now. So we have a person that's identifying opportunities to bring major sporting events that fit with Manchester's sports strategy, and to bring those events into the city. So you'll start to see some traction around some of those successes. We recently, in this year, held the World Para weightlifting, and we're bidding for some large events coming forward into 22. So some of those are under wraps at the moment, but watch the Marketing Manchester news announcements for when we're able to release details of some of those bigger events. I thought I'd just start to go through some of the big events that are on the calendar for next calendar year, really. As you'd expect, January is quite a lean month, but so we've got a new event in the city in January, towards the end of January, 29th, 31st of January. We've been talking to New Scientist magazine, and they're bringing a new consumer show, New Scientist Live, to Manchester Central at the end of January. This has been about 2 or 3 years in the making, really. So we're really keen to support that new event as it comes into the city and to build on that. They're looking to be here for the long term. They already have a large event in London, and they want to build their event portfolio in the north, and they've made Manchester the home for next year. And we'd like to see that secured for future years. So we're keen to see how we can add value to that new consumer science event that will be at Manchester Central. In March, we have the Digital City Festival, which attracts 3,000 delegates. And also in March, finally, the Northern Restaurant and Bar Show, which again attracts about 3,000 delegates into the city over a number of days. Towards the end of March, you may have heard that we have secured, again, this has been a long time coming, but we've been in conversations with the British Association of Small Veterinary Animals, so the Vets Conference, Small Vets Conference as we call them. They are scheduled to finally come in 22nd to the 23rd of March next year. They've rescheduled their date a couple of times, went virtual this year, but after 30 years in Birmingham, they have selected Manchester for their home for the next 3 years. And we want to make that a foundation for a long-term future of that Small Vets Conference, which potentially could eventually attract up to 10,000 delegates into Manchester. It will start small next year, possibly 3,000 or 4,000, up to 5,000 or 6,000 delegates and their partners, but certainly potential to grow over the next few years. I'm sure you'll have heard about Peter Kay's Dance for Life on the 17th and 18th of April. 7,500 people coming to that event on those 2 days. So again, sure to have big impact on the city centre. We then play host to the insurance brokers, the BIBA conference, which has had a change of date this year, but goes back to its usual slot in May. So 11th and 12th of May, we have 4,000 insurance brokers at Manchester Central for their annual conference, one of the bigger regular events on the conference scene in Manchester. And then in June, we've got the British Cardiovascular Society annual conference. Again, a big conference for 2,500 delegates that we've been working with for a number of years, and finally they come into the city in May. In June, 5th to the 8th of June. The 11th of June should certainly be on your calendar as a red ringed event weekend, really. So 11th, 12th of June is Park Life. It's also Ed Sheeran at the Etihad, the Killers at Old Trafford, Alicia Keys at the AO Arena. So one big Manchester music weekend that weekend, and sure to be driving both visitor numbers, revenue and hotel occupancy into the city over that weekend. And something that unfortunately happens occasionally, but it would be nice to spread the love over a number of weekends, but they all seem to have come together over that Manchester music weekend of the 11th and 12th of June. Towards the end of June, we then have the Offshore Wind Conference, and another new conference for Manchester Central, 2,000 delegates at that event. closely followed by the CIH Housing Conference, which is a regular in the city with their 5,000–6,000 delegates coming down into the city for their annual conference again. 6th to the 31st of July, we have the UEFA Women's Euros, which are taking place both in Lee at the Sports Village there. The opening match is at Old Trafford, and then there are group matches at the Manchester City Academy Stadium. So really spreading out the impact of that across Greater Manchester, not just in the city centre. But I'm sure the growing importance of football, growing sort of interest in women's football will make that event sort of a bigger than normal event for the Women's Euros. At the end of July, watch out for Batman and Robin on the streets as Comic-Con comes back into town. 15,000 delegates at Comic-Con, so it's growing year on year. So again, an opportunity there, I'm sure, for city centre businesses to get involved in that event, and a real sort of headline for the city in terms of photo opportunities at the very least. Yeah, we'll wait to see how that goes. And then November, Rugby League World Cup, as you know, has been rescheduled from this year, but both the women's and men's double header final are at Old Trafford. There are group games in Wigan, group games in Bolton. So again, you know, sort of 3 weeks of football, of rugby league, sort of in the city region. And then towards the end of October, 18th to 21st of October, the European Hernia Society come into town with 1,500 delegates talking about hernias. So another interesting event for Manchester Central, but shows the sort of specialisms that we have in attracting sort of major pharmaceutical conferences into the city, and certainly a strength in our bidding when we attract these life scientists into the city. They're attracted by not only the compactness of the city centre, the walkability of the city, the great conference facilities and hotel accommodation that we offer, but also those links into industry, into research, into the academic world of life sciences. And it's something that we really play on when we bid for major conferences. There's a whole list of other conferences that I haven't gone through on our website on marketingmanchester.com. So if you didn't catch the dates, or if you'd like to sort of find out more about some of those conferences or others that are already scheduled in the diary, then look on our Marketing Manchester website. I think just finally, Vaughan, if I can say a couple of things just before I go. Firstly, we're now getting confirmations on a weekly basis for conferences. So check in with us regularly to find out what's been confirmed. If you are a conference venue and you're looking for business, then talk to us about how we can help you through the Convention Bureau. If you're a hotel, then surely you should be talking to us about accommodation, and I'm sure you are. We're placing block bookings for accommodation for major conferences, so we're very keen to work with partners as that as well. And then finally, the Manchester Arena. I was talking to James up at the AO Arena just last week about their backlog really of concerts that are coming in after 12 or 18 months of having no gigs at that venue. They've suddenly got a huge sort of swathe of concerts coming in next year. They're already adding additional dates in for concerts that were scheduled. They've reprogrammed a lot of their concerts that were postponed, and they're looking at the moment as if they're going to have up to 25% more events in 2022 than they would normally have at the arena. So that's again great news in terms of the number of concerts coming into the arena, maybe up to 140, 150 concerts next year, including some of the big names, as you might expect, that will draw audiences not only from the city region but beyond. Yeah, again, look at the arena website for all of those dates. Again, more being confirmed on a weekly basis. One, I'll stop there. Otherwise, I'll get a bit hoarse. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. That's a great overview and very optimistic. Obviously, a lot of confidence in the marketplace. I will enjoy looking at what the rack rate is in hotels over the 11th and 12th of June. Particularly, that will be inspiring, I think, for all of us. Yeah, I mean, particularly on the arena, we will keep an eye on those and actually certainly be letting members and levy payers know when we think there are gigs, particularly more than one night, 2 nights, that are going to have an effect. Quite often, not necessarily the ones you'd expect. I know my kids' school, we've got notice that Young Voices is back up and running, which is 3 or 4 nights of 20,000 kids. All those parents need to be fed somewhere. So sort of mid-market family dining on those nights in February is always a really useful boost for the city, I think, at that point. The New Scientist thing sounds absolutely amazing, and Comic-Con, particularly at what starts to be a dip period then, I think there are a huge number of opportunities around. I would like to see more parades in the city and more people dressing up in the city. I think that's the way that we need to go. We've all got used to wearing masks, so let's wear some Batman masks and various other things. Mike, over to you. Do you want to try and share your presentation? If not, I can share.
Go on, I'll try and see whether I fail spectacularly or not. Where have we gone? Are we on the right one? I can't see on my screen.
It is up.
It's up. Does it look right?
It's not in the main
Manchester events 2022.
Yeah, if you take it into the presentation view in PowerPoint
in the background.
Yeah, if you take the presentation view on PowerPoint, then. Yeah, if you go from current slide on the slideshow.
Oops, blimey, it's going all over the place.
If you go to slideshow.
Yeah, I'm there.
And then from current slide.
Fantastic. Blimey.
There you go.
Good man. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to present today. I think it's still pretty much a work in progress in terms of firming up the programme for 2022. Well, there's clear signs that the event sector is starting to build back, but you know, by no means out of the woods today or yet. August 2020, over 2,000 roadies, promoters, organisers and freelance production crew took to the streets of Manchester as part of the national We Make Events campaign, highlight the devastating impact of the pandemic on the sector and its supply chain. I mean, there's some horrible statistics around. I think we was 77% of the workforce lost 100% of their income in 2020. So, you know, it's taking some time to build back. The last 18 months, City Council has supported the event sector to cancel, postpone or reschedule events, to move activity online or to stage events behind closed doors. The aim was to make sure that where we could, that professional and community organisers had the best chance to survive, so that when events were permitted, they would be able to start up again. It's meant a congested period of events following kind of easement in July. All of these events have struggled with the supply chain and staffing challenges, but they've kind of delivered over 500,000 people across the city, either as participants or audience. So it's been worth the hassle over the last 6 to 8 weeks to get most of these off. And I think it's a good sign that most of these partners are stable now and will be coming back with events next year. We're maintaining a cautious approach as we move into the festive period, but continuing to develop the programme to support this initial recovery phase. We've got the ice rink, which will be opening up in mid-November. It's actually mid-October, not mid-November. We've got the Christmas markets coming back across the city centre. We're aiming to do these at full scale. We believe that even with any potential kind of COVID pass requirements or whatever, they will fit within the emerging guidance over the winter period. Lightopia's back out at Heaton Park, and we're picking up a straggler from MIF with the walk coming through the city centre on the 3rd of November. This is Little Amal, the large puppet, and an event down at Castlefield Arena. Looking ahead to 22, again, you know, it's an emerging year, I think I'd describe it as. We've got some of the activities are starting to re-establish. The marathon, Great Manchester Run, they've obviously recently happened, but they'll be back again in a very short time. April for the marathon and the end of May for the Great Manchester Run, hopefully building up to their pre-pandemic levels. There was about a 30 to 40% dropout this year, which was anticipated and reflected across the UK in terms of mass participation events. But obviously, they're looking at building back with more lead-in time for next year. So looking at a lot of stuff going back to their normal dates. And then we're also bringing in some additional stuff. Nick's mentioned the UEFA Women's Euros. We've got some Commonwealth Games training camps to support Birmingham. And we've got a bit of taekwondo and some athletics on the agenda for next year as well. Everybody's focusing on the hellish weekend of the 11th and 12th of June, and rightly so. Liam's announced a gig at the Etihad on the 1st of June, and there's more to come. I think is probably the easiest way to look at this. We've got some holds on several parks and public spaces. I think there's a lot of doing and throwing with potential European touring artists and things like that, which are waiting for that wider easement across Europe and indeed across the world. So there's more things to be announced certainly in the coming weeks. There'll be some more dates for Sounds of the City. Some are already confirmed. These were carried over from 2020 in terms of Lewis Capaldi, the Folds and Crowded House. And there is another 6 gigs for Sounds of the City to be announced. Like I say, we've got quite a few holds and quite a few conversations. And we've also got an eye on 2023 where we think that there will be actually an increase in terms of availability of artists and such like. So 23 is likely to be an even more important year than 22. Alongside this, we're also building the core annual programme, cultural, lifestyle, community events. Again, looking at 2022 as a stepping stone to more activity in 23. It's an improving picture to where we were 6 months ago. And if some of the discussions we're having with organisers and promoters come to fruition, then I think the future is looking very positive. So I think that's me, if that's all right, Vaughan.
Cool, thank you very much. Yeah, that's even more detail on all those gigs, which is going to be huge for the city, isn't it? Finally, just to run through from our side where our events are. See, I gave the instructions to Mike on how to do it, and then I couldn't work out how to do it myself. That's always a confidence booster, isn't it? So starting this year, we've got Halloween. We'll be back to where it was a couple of years ago in the city centre. Last year, we did have some monsters out, and thank you to all the supporters and sponsors who paid for some of the monsters. You will notice, to my immense amusement, that most of those monsters have recently appeared in Croydon and appeared in Sunderland. So we've got a whole bundle of new monsters. It's only second-hand monsters that go to other towns in the city. We always get new ones. We have got a large number of monsters around the city. Pumpkin lanterns are going to be up for most of the months. And then over that actual Halloween weekend, and Halloween night is the Sunday night of the second weekend of half term. For the majority of schools, I realise some have a slightly different date. We will be having parades and events throughout the city throughout that period. We're also currently in really good conversations with the BBC and just looking for some venues to show some of their Halloween children's specials and various other things in the city. We are, as much as possible, of course, trying to do this without bringing huge numbers together in one place at one time. So we're going to be doing a lot of roving events and roving Insta opportunities. But the city and the number of people who are engaged with this, I think, is quite phenomenal. And Manchester is now known for its sort of becoming Manchester, as we're now calling it, for that period. Yeah, I know it's terrible. But we are known now for our Halloween events. And when we started this, as you'll probably remember, if the city did a Halloween event, it was very much about students and drinking. We deliberately said we want a family audience, we want kids dressed up, which is what I was saying about the Comic-Con thing. You know, we actually want to have a sort of sense of celebration in the city centre, and that's where we've got to, and I think we'll continue to build on that. This will be the biggest one that we've done in terms of the monsters and in terms of what's on street. So and that really kicks off the Christmas season, I think it's fair to say. As Mike said, the ice rink will already be up by then and will be sort of themed Halloween-y. And then in the week after Halloween will be themed Christmassy. So it'll be an interesting changeover. And effectively, as the lanterns go down, there's an interesting crossover between my team and Mike's team and the markets team about how all those builds happen. And there's a lot of work backstage to get the markets up at that point. So ice rink up and running. Christmas markets, Mike's already given the date. They are up and running from the 12th. For the first time, we as the bid are going to be doing a sort of welcome to Christmas event on that Saturday. We are theming this sort of broadly around a Narnia, snow, ice queen type set of themes. Again, modeling after what we do on Halloween. This is going to be 3 or 4 sort of welcome points as you get into the city centre retail area for photo opportunities with the ice queen or whoever it would be. Some roving performers, puppets, various other things. Again, this is all about, we are trying to encourage people to come back into the city centre that may not have come into the city centre for the last 18 months. We want something cool, something exciting, something really, really interesting for people to come back to. We've seen some of the visuals. I know there are always cynical comments about Manchester goes earlier and earlier with Christmas every year. It does. But there's a reason for that. We are really, really well known for our Christmas product, and obviously it has a huge impact on our local economy. It does mean that we can actually get a lot of performers that for our Christmas event that aren't otherwise booked up, because they're not usually booked up till the beginning of December. So hopefully that will be something that we can then turn into an annual event, and just as we've done with Halloween, make it bigger and bigger each year. Then we're into early next year, Chinese New Year. There are already plans in Chinatown for what's going to happen. Not sure, unless Mike knows any different, that we know whether there's a parade or not yet. I think it's still being decided. Yeah, there will be stalls, there will be the lanterns up around the city. It is the year of the tiger, and this is our rather beautiful tiger that Stan Chow has done for us in our continuing theme. Eventually we will have all 12 creatures. I'm not sure whether we'll then start again, but obviously the tiger is a really strong image. So we are going to be looking particularly in and around Exchange Square at what we can do for a fairly major installation. Again, for people to come in, you may well remember the pig from a couple of years back that we did a major installation in St. Anne's. Got a huge amount of attention on social media, a huge amount of photos. We're always a bit wary about doing something that is purely about footfall for the city centre over Chinese New Year, because the weather is so crucial to what is happening. But we want something that really marks our relationship to China, our continuing relationship to China, and really making sure that there are things to come and look at and things to do. So that's going to be a big thing for us. We'll have another student social in April. We just had one in September. It was probably the rainiest day that we've had in the last 6 months. Students did come out. Obviously, we'll be working very, very closely with Manchester Arndale on that in April. And then the Manchester Flower Show. We were delighted and really pleased with the response. Couldn't have gone any better in 2021. It was the first event coming out of lockdown. And we deliberately knew that it being a flower show, it being outside, unless everything was going wrong, it probably was okay to do it. I think there was such a strong desire from hotels, retailers, hospitality to be involved and to sort of, let off that feeling that had been locked down for 14, 15 months and really get involved. We want this one to be even bigger. It is actually over the Jubilee weekend. So there are going to be, for the Platinum Jubilee, it is, I believe, of the Queen. So there are going to be a lot of events anyway, in terms of tea parties and community stuff and all of those sort of things. They tend not to be in the city centre so much, but I think there are a huge opportunity celebrating, somebody who's going to be 90, whatever it is, 6 at that page with flowers seems a particularly good way of doing it. So I think there are a huge number of opportunities. Please get in touch if you want to get involved with that. It is about beautifying the city. It is about bringing people into the city centre, and seems to work really, really well. Pride, I'm going to put Comic-Con on this so that we actually get involved with Comic-Con as well, because I think that's a big opportunity. Then Pride at the end of August, really working with the brands around the retail area with hospitality. We do this on a sort of twofold basis. One is making sure that we really are celebrating Pride across the city centre. The other one is a bit more subtle, which is about making sure that those who are involved in putting rainbows in their windows are also raising money for charities that are connected to Pride in Manchester, or raising money for Pride itself, and actually are involved in the community and involved in supporting the things that Pride was set up to support. So that's a really important piece of work that you probably don't see with all the rainbows and banners, but is vital to what we do. And then going into the end of the year, we'll be back, obviously, the Student Social. You know, again, this is a huge event that if you're not in the student community, if you're not in a brand that's associated with students, you probably don't see, but attracts thousands and thousands of students in their first couple of weeks into the city centre, and is vital for getting them into the city centre and getting them used to moving about. And then we're back with Halloween again, and back into the Christmas welcome, we hope. There are a number of other things, as everyone has talked about, excuse me, that are being planned and are underway. A couple of music festivals that are under development, which should be fairly major. But apart from those, I think all of this shows how much work is going into 2022, how much is being developed, and really the optimism that there is around the city over the next 14, 15 months. If we do get a knockback, we're all hoping that it will only be for a couple of weeks of lockdown or whatever, and hoping that that won't take place at all, but if it needs to, and then the majority of these events can stay in place. Thank you, gentlemen. I haven't got any questions through, so I'm hoping that was really, really useful to everybody. It is one of those massive information dumps. We do have a events calendar. We will send an email around after this with a link to this recording, and also to the page that Nick talked about, and to our calendar of the events that are coming up. I think it's really useful to know some of those big conventions that are going to be out and about in the city centre. Thank you all for attending. Over the next few weeks, we've got another couple of events coming up. On the 17th of November, which is a Wednesday, we're starting a monthly performance review of the city centre. So really we're looking at spend, footfall. We've got TFGM coming to talk about transport as well. So an invite for that is going out in the next couple of days. I will be inviting Nick to talk about hotel figures, maybe not in the November one, but in a future one. Really, because we've now got so much data, so much intelligence about what's happening in the city centre. We just wanted to give the opportunity to share that as much as possible. That is going to be a real classic information dump. I did a dry run of it yesterday, sort of flicking between PowerPoints and the spend shows this and this and this. But I think it's really, really interesting, particularly before Christmas, to start doing that information and to make sure we know where we are. We now have historic spend data from the whole of 2019, which includes the origin postcodes of where people are coming from, demographic splits, and so on, and a number of other things, and sort of sector splits. So I want to take you through that at that meeting, really to give you an idea of what a normal, in quotes, year looks like. And therefore, as we come out of Christmas, we can sort of see whether that happened. It really confirms a lot of things that we know anecdotally, but we actually have the figures for the first time. And then secondly, the week after, on the 25th of November, the next CityCons will be a briefing with TFGM and indeed with Manchester City Council around transport. And again, that's going to be focused on 2022. So the Clean Air Plan, it has to be finalised by, I believe, May 2022. Obviously, the bus conversation is ongoing, and hopefully we'll find some sort of solution during 2022. There are a number of major highways works like Deansgate, which again we're looking for, are in a bit of aspic at the moment, so we're looking for a solution to those, or looking for a final answer to those. So we'll hopefully be able to take you through all of those. And then in early December, probably the second week of December, we will be doing another CityCons, which is all about property developments, obviously with the Crane survey and various other things. So loads going on, loads of information that will keep on piling out to you. I hope that was useful for everybody. We will be summing it up. Thank you to Mike and Nick. That was really optimistic. I will walk away from that feeling very positive. Thank you all very much indeed.